October 2003. Look, long before iPhones, 4K displays, or whatever folded screen smartphone we're obsessing over today, a tiny piece of plastic was quietly shipped out of a factory in Finland. No camera, no internet, no Bluetooth. Its display was literally a small monochrome green box that could barely fit 2 lines of text. I mean, back then, it looked almost primitive. But then, something unbelievable happened. It sold 50 million units, then 100 million. And before anyone in Silicon Valley could even process what was happening, it passed 250 million devices sold worldwide. Wait, what? To put that into perspective, that single budget brick sold more units than the iPhone 13, the PS4, or any smart device ever built in human history. And the company behind it? Nokia. A giant that controlled over 40% of the entire global market. They felt invincible, unshakable. Well, until they were destroyed. Because behind the insane success of the Nokia 1100 lies a much darker story. A story involving underground dark web hackers, 5-figure bank thefts, and a fatal corporate blind spot that collapsed a $250 billion empire. So, how did a $10 rubber phone conquer the planet and then accidentally kill its own creator? Let's break it down. Okay, so how did Nokia actually do it? While Western tech companies were busy adding polyphonic ringtones for rich nations, Nokia's lead designer asked one simple question. What about everyone else? What about the billions of people in India, Africa, or Latin America who had never held a phone in their life? People working in dusty construction sites, living with unreliable electricity, who couldn't spend $100 on a delicate gadget. The answer was the Nokia 1100. It was built like an absolute tank. The keyboard was sealed with a single sheet of dustproof rubber. It had a built-in flashlight for night power outages. And the battery? Man, it lasted for a week on a single charge. It wasn't just a phone. For millions, it was their door to the modern world. Nokia was printing cash. But in late 2008, long after the phone was discontinued, something extremely weird started happening online. Suddenly, old used Nokia 1100s, phones originally worth $10, were being listed on dark web forums for $5,000, $10,000, even $30,000 a piece. I know, right? Why on earth would someone pay the price of a luxury BMW for a 5-year-old plastic brick? Well, hackers had discovered a terrifying flaw. A tiny software bug inside a specific batch made in Bochum, Germany, allowed cybercriminals to reprogram the phone's identity. They could hijack any phone number and intercept one-time banking passwords sent via SMS. Without firing a single bullet, criminals were using this humble $10 phone to drain European bank accounts. While criminals were exploiting Nokia's old hardware, a much bigger nightmare was brewing in California. January 2007, Steve Jobs walks onto a stage in San Francisco and reveals the very first iPhone. Now, guess how Nokia's executives reacted inside their headquarters in Finland? Did they panic? Nope. They laughed. They looked at the iPhone and thought, "What a fragile toy!" It breaks when dropped, its battery dies in half a day, and it costs $500. We sell millions of 1100s every single month. Why should we care about Apple? And that was their death sentence. You see, Nokia thought they were in the business of selling hardware, plastic, buttons, and rubber. But Apple realized the future wasn't hardware. It was software, ecosystems, apps. Nokia's operating system was outdated. Trying to force it to work on a touchscreen was like trying to bolt a jet engine onto a wooden horse carriage. When Google dropped Android for free, Nokia panicked. But instead of jumping to Android, their arrogance pushed them straight into the arms of Microsoft Windows Phone. And, well, it was a slow-motion car crash. In just 6 short years, Nokia's global market share collapsed from 40% down to less than 3%. They were losing billions. And in 2013, Nokia had no choice but to sell their entire mobile division to Microsoft. During the final press conference, Nokia's CEO stood in front of the press, wiped his eyes, and said a line that still gives me chills. "We didn't do anything wrong, but somehow we lost." But they did do something wrong. They got comfortable. They assumed the world would always want cheap, unbreakable bricks, like the 1100, while the rest of humanity moved on to the digital future. Nokia didn't fail because their phones broke. They failed because they refused to change. Today, Nokia doesn't make phones anymore. But if you look inside an old drawer or a workshop somewhere in the world, you'll still find a dusty Nokia 1100. And if you press that power button, even after 20 years, that tiny green screen will still light up. A quiet, indestructible reminder of the $10 phone that once ruled the planet.